Welcome to Books, Booze, and Murder. I'm Anna.
I'm Alexa.
We're two besties who love to read and, like many, have a fascination with true crime. How are you?
Well, considering the fact that we spent all day at the mountain and then had a drink and a half on the deck, I'm fucking wiped.
Yeah.
I am so tired I fell asleep on the way home. I'm glad Greg was driving.
Yeah. Eric fell asleep too. And I was like, oh, I'm just so ready for a nap, but this is like prime time to record. Especially since I kicked Eric out so he could bring the dogs to your house so we don't have to deal with that.
I'm honestly just so happy we didn't decide to wait until like 7, or else I quite literally probably would have been dead to the rest of the world.
Probably. So did you read it? I know we've been posting more about the books that we've been reading lately just to kind of show we read more than one book a month.
Yes.
But did you have any interesting reads that you had?
I honestly loved reading Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. And I was telling you about this last night at our book club that we hold monthly. We'll see if we keep that monthly.
Well, it's
date.
been like every 3 months or so because we're like, oh, there's only so much reading we can do in a month.
Has it been every...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I guess you're...
It's not every month, but it's every few.
It's been like every other month. That's right.
Yeah.
It is always just... And of course we just do it to get together with our friends. But I really liked Anxious People. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously a very interesting read where it almost seems like someone's trying to have a conversation with you. And it's like almost like talking to someone who has ADHD and doesn't tell stories well, but the story is very well told. So I'm not going to say it's not a well-written story. It's just a very different style of writing a story. That's kind of hard for some people. I can see how it's hard for some people to get into. And of course, being on spring break, I'm like, give me all of the books to read, please.
Yeah, you've been plowing through books, and I'm like, shit, you're putting me to shame.
Well, and so I listen to a lot of books, and that was actually something I mentioned in my last post about the book I finished. So the last book I finished was the Alice Hoffman book, The Ice Queen. And of course, books that are on audio tape, like I have Libby, so it's connected with all of our local libraries up here, and I was able to get access to a New York Public Library card. So they have so many more books, and I'm just like, yes, so good.
I mean, we're never like, we're into like the used books unless we're really wanting a book, and then we'll buy it brand new. But we're also like, oh, $4 for a book, $3 for a book, library book.
Please. It's great.
Yeah.
But like, so audiobooks, I've been doing a lot more audiobooks and listening to those as I have been getting ready in the morning, driving to work, getting stuff ready in my classroom. Even like running on the treadmill has been, like, books have been my go-to thing instead of listening to music or podcasts. And that seems to be my issue is podcasts are sometimes hour and a half. Some of them are 3 hours long. But it's like I have to have a podcast with a good story if I'm going to listen to it while I'm trying to run on the treadmill and not want to stop and just be like, I hate running on the treadmills. I'm done. Have to, though. How are you today?
I mean, other than tired, I'm all right. But, I mean, I've definitely been in a Frida McFadden kick.
You have.
Well, I think what happened was I read Outlander in February.
Right.
And that book is a fucking commitment.
That's a long book.
Like, it was 650 pages. And then I read, obviously, Where the Crawdads Sing. And then I read A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Those are commitments, too.
Yeah. Well, Where the Crawdads Sing, not as bad, but Court of Thorns and Roses.
No, that series, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a commitment.
Yeah. And then after our last episode, I read A Court of Mist and Fury. And, like, our friend, Daenerys, was like, look, the first book in the series is trash. The second series is a little bit better, and then you get to, like, closer to the end, and it's a lot better. Than the last 3 books are, woof, like, they're amazing.
Okay.
So, like, I kept telling myself, just keep going, keep going. And sure enough, I read, like, the last 100 pages within, like, 24 hours, because I was like, holy moly. But regardless, that's a big book, too. And what I've come to realize is, if a book is more than 300 pages, I'm like, I have to prepare myself for that.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of sitting. So, I mean, reading Frida McFadden has been like a 24, 48-hour thing.
Those are breezes.
Yeah.
Those are like, not saying they catch you, they're easy, they're, what, 200 pages kind of thing?
Yeah, 200 to 300.
Yeah, 200 to 300. Those are pretty darn easy. But the books that are 500, 600 pages...
You have to be committed.
That's a commitment for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely don't mind audiobooks by any means, but I find that I most listen to them like when I'm doing dishes.
Sure.
So I don't go through them very fast.
Right.
And then Eric has been listening more to audiobooks lately. And what I just learned is if you have a Spotify Premium Duo membership, which is what we have, the primary account holder is the only one that can stream audiobooks.
I'm not happy about that.
No.
I think that's very frustrating. It's like, wait, why? I mean,
I think they changed it because they're like, audiobooks, and everyone had to pay for it, and I don't think that went very far. And then they're like, premium members, here you go. So we switched our account over because I was like, if he's starting to get into reading or listening to audiobooks more, I want to support that. So it's... Yeah. You've been breezing through the books with audiobooks. I've just been paper.
And I definitely know that as soon as school starts back up next week, not next week, the week after, I'm going to be listening to more audiobooks. And that's going to still be probably my main source of books because the only other time I'll be able to do it is like at night.
Yeah.
After track.
Yeah. So this is your prime time to shine with book reading.
Oh, yeah. This is the only time I get right now until summer comes.
Oh, man.
But so anyway.
Yeah, so we did want to acknowledge the feedback that we've been getting. Because obviously, listener support is what we're all about. That was on me. I got tired with editing the audio.
That's fair.
Because initially, like, we were recording with my video equipment with our little microphones, which has been really easy. But March was very busy. And I was like, fuck it. I need to go to bed. I'm exhausted. Like, if anything, I'd rather have our talk about the book be decent quality and then audio for mine. I'm like, fuck it. I'm tired.
I mean, I gotta say, I gotta give you a lot of credit for doing all this audio equipment stuff because I'm just like, I don't have the time, the energy, like... I got the Instagram page. That's about it.
Yeah, you've been rocking the Instagram page for sure.
Trying.
But no, we've been hearing the feedback, and obviously we want to continue to strive to become better with that. Eventually, I do want like that whole professional setup where we both had headphones and things are a lot easier. But for right now,
one of these days,
my finances are being sunk into video equipment and not as much audio equipment. But I do want to give a shout out to my friend Anthony. I met Anthony when we were both working towards our bachelor's in mass communication, and he runs Down the Rabbit Hole Media. You can check out his Instagram page. I was like, Anthony, help me. You have a decent podcast. Help me. So he recommended a new microphone that we're using today, which I've been doing some testing for. We'll see how this goes. Super affordable microphone for what we're doing. I think it sounds pretty darn decent. So we'll see how this goes. But either way, we just wanted to acknowledge that we're hearing people's feedback when it comes to quality, and we definitely want to continue improving. And thus, we've done that on episode 3. But I also justified this purchase in that and part of why I got really fucking tired in March was I am now a walking coach on this fitness app I'm part of. So it's called The Next Fitness Thing. It is a startup. Everything is done on your phone, or if you have like your computer and you're able to do a class on that, that's fine. But members, depending on what membership they get, range from being able to take on-demand classes only, which you're still getting the benefits of a class. It's just you press play whenever. Or you can join a class live, and if you have your camera on, and let's say you're doing weights or stretching or something, the certified trainer can see everything and can either they'll give you encouragement, but they'll also say, hey, like, let's try fixing this. And they do it in such an inclusive way where it's like good chance if you're doing something wrong, someone else is doing it wrong, and you don't feel like you're called out. So it's just a really fun platform. But I was in a multi-week training where 4 hours of my life a week was in training. So, and that was just the training. It wasn't like the actual homework.
Right.
So I've been, no wonder why I've been
balls to the
tired.
walls.
Yeah, truly. But either way, if you're into that type of thing, membership starts at $1 a year. They wanted to do free just so people could get the hang of it, but their computer system isn't letting them do that. So, I know, right? But that's where I'm going to be as well with audio. So I figured may as well use the microphone for that as well, multi-purpose. I'm all about that. So I think... Oh! I have a present for you.
You have a present
I have a present for you.
What's my present? Oh, goodness. With the keys as well?
Well, the key has a little knife for you to open it.
I got you. Okay, so put that down.
And then we can talk about our drink for the month.
Alrighty then. Let's see what's in my box.
You're gonna die.
I'm gonna die?
You're gonna die of laughter.
I'm very excited then. Okay, so close. How do I close? I understand. I know what it is. I know how to do it, I swear. Did drive the wrong way, but that's beside the fucking point. It's a mug! It's a mug! It's a mug! It's a mug. So apparently I'm not allowed to adopt all the dogs. Rude, but okay. Ain't that the absolute fucking truth? Because I tell my husband every single day I'm having 4 dogs. He says 2, and then we go back and forth. Where I say 4, 2. 4, 2. 5, 1. Fuck. 3, 2. Yay.
Well, so I've been dying, so I've had that mug for a few weeks. Because the place that I got it, like, just came out with it. And, of course, I got one, too, so I had to hide it.
Understood.
When you're like, for this week's drink, I'm going to give a little bit of a hint. And you're like, okay, we need mugs. I'm like, I need to hide this. But I'm like, this is Alexa all the way.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured you would appreciate that. And then
I do.
The other night we were at dinner with our husbands, and you guys were talking about mugs and how many mugs you have, and I'm like, oh, you're about to add one more to the collection.
Yes!
I had to wait.
Don't care. It's perfect. It works.
So what do we have for our drink this month?
So, for this month, I was... Well, when Anna asked me earlier today, do you have a drink prepared? I said, fuck, I have to do that. But then it was, okay, so let's do this one, because this is a very stereotypical college drink. And then I thought more as I got home, and I was really fucking tired, and I'm like, no, let's think about this better. What do you want to drink in a cold hockey rink as a mom or hockey girlfriend? Hot chocolate. But of course we had to spice it up just a little bit, and we added some Amarula, which is absolutely delicious. If you've never had it, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's hitting the spot.
Yeah.
We're in our 3rd round of winter.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be 50 by Monday, though. So, I know nothing. I'm just going with it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And so if you're wondering, well, Alexa, Anna, why did you pick hot chocolate? Why are you giving allusions to hockey? I think you guys already know this, and I hope you read the book with us, but we are covering The Deal by Elle Kennedy. It is the first in her off-campus series where, so here's my little synopsis of it. I actually came prepared today, and I wrote something. I've been trying to write about every single book so that I actually have my shit together, because I quite literally cannot keep my brain straight, and I know it's going to be that much harder as soon as school starts back and then testing season comes, and I'm going to be like, shut down. So anyway, The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This book starts off with a girl going to college. Been there, done that, so this was a nice little throwback to the college days. Thank God I'm out of that now. Our main characters' names are Garrett and Hannah. Hannah is a theater major who finds herself swooning over a football player. But with the dramatic past situation, which prevents her from wanting to ever go home, and issues being intimate with her boyfriends. So, I am a hardcore hockey fan, so I support her choice of going for a hockey player at the end of this and not a football player, because football players suck! Excuse me, sorry. But she goes to college far away for a fresh start at Briar University, located in Massachusetts. Shout out to all my former coworkers. Garrett is captain of the hockey team and needs a passing grade in order to continue playing for the school. Not saying that he's a dummy, but apparently there's like one class, one professor who's super picky. We've, again, been there, done that, where we have that one professor who's just like, what do you want? What do you need? Why are you not giving me what I need? But so, Hannah seems to be the student that can just kind of like almost like read her professor's mind and write exactly what she needs and what she wants in the perfect way, so she has passing grades. She's a perfect student, and so he makes a deal with Hannah to help her get a date with her crush in exchange for tutoring him. Because of course when you're in college, all of the sports guys are either best friends or frenemies or something of the sort, where they're like against each other or something. But in this case, they're all best friends. They all go to each other's frat parties and stuff like that. But of course, it's never just as simple as study date done. Garrett ends up coaching Hannah on sex, dating, and jealousy, which sparks emotions for both parties. Meanwhile, Garrett is carrying his own baggage of having a father who is famous in the NHL, but is a mean drunk, which is why Garrett never goes home and can't wait to get an NHL contract and leave his father's legacy behind him. Meanwhile, Garrett passes his classes, Hannah falls for Garrett and tells him her terrible story and why she doesn't ever go home or talk about home. She was raped by the mayor's son and was about to be able to be covered up, but then she was portrayed as a charlatan and nobody from her hometown believes her. Not to mention that her recital is coming up and her partner is a major douchebag who ends up dumping her by saying, "I'd like to do this myself," and taking the pianist with him. By the way, the pianist, the accompaniment, I hate, that made me so frustrated. I'm like, wait. Ugh. It was so frustrating for me, because I'm like, that's a really shitty thing to do. But of course, like, Hannah floors it with her own song and her own accompaniment and all of that, and she ends up like winning this beautiful scholarship. So I'm like, this is freaking awesome. And of course, this is right after Hannah and Garrett break up because, oh, and I'm getting to that. So before this, Hannah and Garrett break up because Garrett doesn't want to subject Hannah to his dad's wrath and is also guilted into it by his dad saying that Garrett isn't focused on his career enough. There's no way the NHL will want you if you're not committed. He realizes his mistake, obviously.
Wait, no, she broke up with him.
No, I thought he broke up with her.
No, she broke up with him because she was at work at the diner and his dad found her and threatened her and was like, if you don't break up with him, I'm his purse strings.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Like I said, this is why I need to write notes more sooner. But yeah, I'm sorry.
You're a teacher. You have a lot going on.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but no, it was for her.
That's exactly what it was, because Garrett's dad is paying for his entire college, and if he doesn't do everything that his dad says, his dad can pull his own. That's right, because his dad can pull the tuition money out from underneath him, and Garrett is literally just waiting until he is like 21, and then he gets the trust from his mom's parents, and then no longer has to worry about his dad anymore.
Yeah, but Hannah didn't know that.
And so, yeah, Hannah doesn't know this because, of course, she met the dad at like the Thanksgiving and met the girlfriend of the dad and saw the bruises already and was like, This isn't good. You can leave. This is not okay. So they're all trying to work that shit out. And so, of course, Hannah breaks up with Garrett. Garrett is destroyed. By the way, Garrett doesn't drink a lot and never before a game. I was like, that's not a hockey player. Sorry, that's inaccurate.
There was a few points during this book where I was like, I don't have a male genitalia. I don't know how a guy thinks or really speaks, but some of the stuff just didn't seem all that realistic.
No. No. But of course, I don't think it's necessarily meant to be exceptionally realistic.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, give me all the smuttiness. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what was fun about this. Is it was like that lighthearted, smutty, almost relatable
Yeah.
to college life.
Yeah.
Hannah writes her own song for her recital and wins the scholarship that was offered for the best performance. But then one hockey game comes along after Hannah tells Garrett about the rape, and one of the boys from... So obviously they end up getting back together because Garrett's like, I don't have to deal with my father anymore. And of course, Garrett also has to deal with his father being a famous NHL player. So all of his teammates are just like in awe of this man. He's like, oh my God, he's wonderful. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and of course, Garrett has to kind of like play along. He's like, I'm not going to tell my whole teammates that my fucking father is actually an abusive asshole. And of course, Garrett also feels that he has this inner rage that his dad has inside of him. So that's battling all of that too. So Hannah told Garrett about the rape, and one of the boys from her hometown is a fan for the rival team. And Garrett loses his shit, which I gotta say, like, go fucking you.
Yeah.
Which makes him fear that he is like his father, which he isn't. But of course, Briar hockey team... Oh, anyway. But I'm gonna say that for a hot minute. So, of course, like, he is suspended for the one game. They don't press charges because then, of course, the whole thing would actually have to come out that, hey, you actually suck and did a wrong thing way back when. Mm-hmm. So, but everything is kind of all forgiven-ish. He leaves and goes back to smutty grossness place where he came from.
Yeah.
And does not come back, thank God.
Yeah.
But of course, in true happy story fashion, Briar hockey team wins the national title. Garrett tells his buddies about his dad's abusiveness to his teammate, so his teammates stop worshiping him. And Hannah and Garrett become the really cute college couple who is like literally perfect in every way. And then Elle Kennedy has 4 other books after this that are based on the same characters. So like the second one is The Mistake, which I've read, and it deals with one of Garrett's teammates. And then, of course, Garrett and Hannah are in it, but not main characters of it.
It's all of the guys that were living in that house.
Yeah, so Garrett is one of them, and then there's the 2 Johns, but they go by each other's last names.
Yeah, so that they can keep track, or middle names, whatever it is.
It's last names, because one of them is John Logan, and that he's the main character in the second book.
Yeah, and not gonna lie, I have the other 3 in my thrift books wish list. Because I'm like, I really want to know how they go. But then I also...
The second one I actually did think was relatively okay. Mm-hmm. Like, definitely high up there on the smutty list.
Yeah.
Very low on the realistic list, but...
Yeah. I mean...
To each their own.
Yeah. I mean, this was a book where I feel like we had 2 pretty, like, very well written, but 2 very serious books. And this was just a fun break from reality.
Yes.
Where it doesn't matter if it's not super realistic. It was entertaining for me.
It was entertaining.
And that's all.
That was kind of all we needed for March.
Yeah,
April, excuse me.
Yeah.
We're in April now.
Months? What's that? But yeah, I would definitely read the next 3 books because I did look online. And again...
Is it a 5-book series?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Are you telling me to read the next 3? Because I've already read 1 and 2.
Well, no. I'm saying I want to read the next 3 just to know their storylines.
Okay.
But, again, like, I don't have Reddit. But Reddit threads just keep coming up when I Google all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And everyone was saying how book number 5, The Legacy, is just garbage. Which I can't judge that for myself. But the big thing of why I think I'm probably not going to read it is they're like, we believe the author forgot the personalities of a lot of the characters that they created. And that would just really... So, yeah, if anyone has the next 3 that they want to send my way and just want to get rid of, either way, I have them in my wish list.
I was about to say, I read the second one on Libby, and I really didn't have to wait to pull it out at all. And it was again another easy, like pretty easy read, same kind of format as The Deal.
Yeah. I have to go to our library because I do have a membership way back when at a different library in the same county. Mm-hmm. And I just have to figure out how to get that up and running again.
I think all you have to do is go in and say, I have a library card, but it expired. And then they'll just...
Yeah. I have a
reboot
library
it.
card, but I don't really remember much. I can tell you my name.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
I think that's all you need.
But this book really reminded me of She's All That. Like, I will be honest in that I haven't watched the movie. I'd meant to do it before recording, but life
happened, yeah.
But it definitely reminds me of She's All That with like all like the basic premise. And then with Breaking Bad and how they just binged it. Have you ever seen Breaking Bad?
I think I watched one episode a long time ago, but it wasn't something that really caught my attention and kind of kept me engaged.
Yeah.
Even back then when I was all about, give me a really good TV show. So like I've binged all of Charmed, all of Bones multiple times. Like multiple times I've watched these. I want to say there's another one, but then like, and I'll watch movies over and over again, like the Sherlock Holmes ones with Robert Downey Jr. Those are my favorites. I'll watch those all the time, but Breaking Bad was like something that blew up and everyone was all about, and I watched one episode and I'm like, I don't like it.
We have a mutual friend who years ago went through a really bad breakup, and our friend didn't tell us much about it, but knowing the other person that they were with, it was like, oh, this is probably not the healthiest thing. But then I somehow got roped into comforting that person because they didn't have many people in the area to hang out with.
Yes.
So that's kind of like my association for that. Oh. And we watched an episode of Breaking Bad, and I really wasn't hooked either. But at the same time, I'm not opposed to like giving it another shot and to see how much I like it. Because there were so many people that are like, oh, I binged it. It's so good. Yeah. And then what I thought was funny was the class that he was struggling in was philosophy.
Yeah.
When I went to the first college that I went to, I took a philosophy class. I had no idea what I was walking into, but I fucking hated it. And Alexa, I didn't have a textbook. Do you know what my quote-unquote textbook was?
What?
Handwritten notes in cursive that got photocopied and distributed to us at the beginning of every week.
No, thank you.
So I mean, we were just talking about this the other day and how our generation, we're in our 30s.
We can't read or write cursive, a lot of us.
No, we can, but the kids now are not being taught that. So it's like, if I didn't have that knowledge, I would have been fucked. So
I still feel like there are a lot of people that cannot read or write cursive.
Sure.
Especially if it's messy cursive or not well-connected cursive. People really struggle with that. And especially people who have disabilities and have those, I can't put what I see into and compute it into my brain and make it make sense. Like it has to be that printed text or else I have a harder time translating it into information I can use.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. No one was, no.
So
you can't get away with that nowadays. No.
Probably not. So, I mean, the guy was pretty much, this was probably like a side gig post-retirement. But I did end up recruiting a friend of mine who lived on the same floor as me to help like tutor me and learn. Because I was like, I don't understand any of this shit. And like, I guess trigger warning for like sensitive topics, but when it does come to the rape, I don't know what it's like, nor do I know of anyone who has experienced that. Or maybe I do know of someone and they just haven't opened up to me, which is absolutely fine. But I like how it was approached in this book as far as just the aspect of talking about it and then being able to process a lot of the information and the hurt. And I thought that was really well done. Again, I don't know how it feels. I don't know if it's triggering other people. But for me, I was like, wow, like you don't hear a lot of the time someone getting sexually assaulted and have that be a part of their big story and their traumas. And the fact, and like, again, I don't know how realistic this is, but the fact that like they actively worked really hard for her to overcome that trauma. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, like what a fucking gentleman. Not every guy would be like that.
No, exactly.
So you know the scene where her legs are up and she's like, no.
Yes.
I can kind of relate to that shit. Well, I'm barely 5'4" and my husband's 6'2".
Yeah.
So whenever we try that, I'm like, no, this is not, no. This does not feel good.
No.
No.
No spank you.
No.
I don't like this.
No.
This is actually not for me.
Yeah. So I just thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Yes.
But I was like,
obviously.
Could you relate to cooking a massive dinner for your partner and his friends?
No! No, well, I can relate to cooking a massive dinner for my partner because God knows Greg eats so much. It is amazing. Like,
And he has flat abs. What the fuck?
I don't want to talk about it because he sucks. Like, even trying to think about planning for 4 people, I'm like, what? I already planned for 4 people with me and Greg because I eat for 1 and he eats for 3. Like, he eats so much. It's amazing to me. I'm like, what?
So he's just on his best behavior whenever he's out to dinner.
I mean, it's amazing. It truly is amazing.
Yeah.
I think he's slowing down now that he's, like, a little bit older. He's trying to eat a lot better.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like I'm just trying to relate to when he was not living with me.
Yeah.
And I was able to cook a crock pot meal. And, hey, those were my meals for the week.
Yeah, you were pretty good about that.
And now, of course, Greg lives with me. And we have...
The last 2 days.
2 days! I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I did that with... when Eric was up at school, and I ended up making a massive pot of homemade mac and cheese.
There you go.
But it was like, what a nice thing for her to think.
Yeah. Pasta carbs.
Oh my gosh.
So good. So good.
And then another one, like, when a book talks about a movie or talks about a show or a song, do you sometimes wish that, like, a soundbite or a glimpse of that would be available for, like, the readers to be able to visualize or listen to?
Yes, I think that'd be really cool. Like, maybe books will evolve to that at some point one day where it's like almost like a hyperlink in there and you can click on it and it will show the soundbite of it like it's a holograph or something. Yeah. I'm curious to see if they could do that with ebooks at some point.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting.
Well, I know Sylvia Day did that, like, with the Crossfire series that I talk about all the time. In that series, like, a past lover of the main female character, his band came out with a song called Golden Girl, and there is a clip of that. So it's just one of those things where when it came to the initial song that Hannah was practicing with Douche Canoe and the piano player, I really wanted to hear what it sounded like.
Yeah. And like, was it really that good?
Yeah.
Was it really as good as we think it is?
Yeah. And
then how good was hers if she won?
Yeah. So that was just like, come on. Yeah. But I also thought that Logan's lust over Hannah was really weird. I was like, where the fuck does this come from? Is it the fact that, like...
We find out in the second book.
Oh!
It's touched on in the second book.
Okay, well then now I have
We figure it out.
Okay. I'm glad I brought that up then, because I was just like...
What? It's weird. It is a weird little, like, why are we doing this? This is weird.
Yeah.
Why? And then we don't touch on it at all after the book, once the book is done. Like, why?
Yeah!
But like, yeah, we talk about talk about it in the second book, and he figures out his shit because of course he is the main character in the second book.
Yeah. Okay. So again, when I'm on a book ban, so once I read like 5 to 10 books, I will invest in 5 to 10 more books.
Yes.
And I will get the rest of the series so I can just read it all. And that's the other thing is like if I find that a book's just not great or like. Nah, I can get rid of it. I don't have a problem donating it to the library. Like, that's fine. Oh.
Yeah. I have one book like that that's on my shelf that I've read that I was like, I didn't like this book.
Yeah.
It was, and I don't even remember what the name of it was. I remember the premise was a woman, it was so weird. It was like a woman got pregnant. She already had a daughter and she got pregnant with her boyfriend's child. Her boyfriend is I I don't want to say Mexican because I don't know if that's right, but he has that darker skin and that Hispanic heritage. That's what I was trying to get at. Because I'm like, that's not right. But so he has that Hispanic heritage, and he's a police officer for their small town. And I guess the mother, and of course we go through the 9 months of this right now, and so it's been the mom and the daughter for as long as we can imagine. But I guess the mom's secret is that she found this child in a car all by herself when she was an infant.
Oh.
So she just took the child across state borders, and no one's been able to find her for like 10, 11 years.
Listeners, if you know what this book is, let us know.
I was about to say, I can figure it out when I go home, and I can get us updated on the next one.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I think the reason I didn't like it was because it didn't really dive into depths about it. Mm-hmm. It was a very surface level story, and then it kind of just kept jumping, where it was like snippet, 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 snippet. And then, of course, the poor child, I think the boyfriend, the baby's father, who's, of course, like, we just figured this out at the beginning of the book. So it goes through the span of, like, 9 months, I think, because it starts with we finding out that the woman is pregnant, and then it ends with the baby being born and figuring out how the baby and the girl and the mom all fit into it. Because I think the dad ends up... I can't remember what ends up happening to the dad. But it's like something awful happens, I think. Where I don't know the dad specifically. The dad might die, or he goes off to war or something. But him and the mom don't end up together. And he relinquishes all custody over to the mom or something. I want to say he dies, but I need to...
Your brain is on the struggle bus.
I can't do it. And of course the girl ends up going back to her biological family, and then she can't adjust to that because of course they keep calling her by her name they gave her when she was born, not the name she's been responding to for the past 11 years. And I'm just like, you people are idiots. Like, literally idiots if you think your child is going to adjust back that fast.
Yeah.
And then of course the dad completely checks out. And the mom is just like, I just want this to work. And it ends up, it's a messed up situation where the mom was getting ready to trade her unborn baby for her daughter back. Like, they were like getting ready to sign those papers and everything to trade the baby in her womb for the child that she's had for 11 years. Oh my God. It was fucking messed up.
Oh.
I was like, no. I could never.
Oh, God.
Like, choose between your children. That's basically choosing between your children.
Yeah.
That was very, very frustrating.
Yeah. There are definitely books out there where you're like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah. I wonder if your crime that you're talking about this week is anyway related to all that nonsense. That's what you should do one of these weeks, is you should find, like, a crazy kidnapping story.
Okay.
That'd be fun.
Yes. I will look into that for next month, because I do not have a crime planned out.
Fair enough.
So, all right, well, let's turn the page and go over to true crime.
Yeah.
So this month, we are going to Florida.
Oh, super. I just think of all the Florida Man things. Florida Man tries to keep an alligator as his pet and ends up getting eaten by it. Go figure!
Yeah. I mean, Wine and Crime covers all the crazy shenanigans from Florida people, so there's that. But, I mean, it's spring break time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So many people up here in New York do is they go down to Florida to get the fuck away from the cold. So there's that. But like this month's book, the story also takes place among college students. And no, I didn't do that on purpose.
It works, though.
Yes, it does. Today I will be covering the 2012 murder of Christian. I'm going to refer to him as Chris because that is a name that his family did call him by too.
Okay.
So Christian or Chris Aguilar. When I initially chose this story, I had learned about it through a series called Murder in the Dorms on Hulu. And if you've never seen it, it's really good.
Okay.
Then I had the pleasant surprise of watching a newer 2020 episode that aired with updates to the story in early March, so about a month ago.
Okay.
Other sources include the student-run newspaper, for where the school was called the Alligator, ABC News, and WUFT. It's apparently a news source in Florida that's a combination of NPR and PBS.
Okay.
Before I fully dive in, though, please let me know if there's anything that confuses you, because there's a good chance our listeners will as well.
Okay.
And I will be repeating a lot of the same information because it is one big timeline.
Right.
But that's just the way the story unfolded.
Right.
What was so hard, because, like, I know I've told you this about it a few times, but I've spent probably more time on piecing together this storyline than I have with the last two stories I did combined.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to give up a couple of times, but what I had to keep telling myself was, no, Christian's parents have gone on the news multiple times. They have talked about their son. They deserve to have their son's story told. So that's what kept me going.
Fair enough. So this is unsolved.
No, this is solved.
It is solved.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
But the reason why it's hard was because, like, as you know, I'm very visual. So if I'm watching a TV show, it's the easiest way for me to process the information.
Right.
So I first watched this on Murder in the Dorms. As I, like, did my first draft of this story based on that, 2020 came out.
Yep.
And so I watched that one too. But their storylines jumped all over the place.
Oh.
And so that's what took me forever, was because I was like, I need to make sure I do all of this correctly and not fuck up the information.
Right.
But oh my gosh.
Piecing it all together was
a bitch. I've had 11 pages of notes at one point, and I have condensed this because no one wants to hear me talk for that long.
There's a lot of pages of notes there. Like, I stick to one page for my synopsis and then insert rude comment here.
True.
11 pages though? Wow, I can't wait.
I mean, my last ones have been like 6 to 7.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear it then.
Yeah. So Chris was born in 1993 in Miami. He was the son of Colombian immigrants Carlos and Claudia. Let me tell you, I wish every parent was like Claudia and Carlos, because they were the best advocates. In 1995, his brother Alex was born, and like any typical Latin American family, the Aguilars were and are still extremely tight. Growing up, Chris enjoyed reading, studying, playing music, and drawing. His mom described him as being shy, but also the family clown. He had aspirations to be someone and was always thinking towards his future. I mean, a lot of college students can relate to that. He was just like a couple of my cousins who are smart as shit and way more social than I will ever be. Carlos and Claudia wanted the best for their sons, so both boys went to, and I'm going to butcher this, just bear with me, Doral. I'm not from Florida. Doral Academy. It's
How do you spell it?
It's Doral, but I even put in like the pronunciation guide, and every time I've like read this to make sure it's smooth reading, I've put that pronunciation guide there and I still can't follow it. So
okay.
Doral Academy.
Okay.
It's a charter school in Miami. Tell me I'm not from Florida without telling me I'm not from Florida. According to Murder in the Dorms, this particular school has a strong academic drive, and most parents have Latin American roots. When Chris was there, he'd had what I consider a large, close-knit group of friends. There was a picture, which I'm pretty sure I put that in our drive so that it can be put on to Instagram.
Okay.
But there's a picture of everyone at prom in front of an SUV limo, and it's like the entire limo is like, it's covered in students, and I'm like, holy crap. So that just told me how popular he was.
Right.
Within this massive group of friends was a couple named Erica and Pedro. Pedro was a lot like Chris in that he was also a class clown, probably why they got along so well. Erica was seen by both Chris and Pedro as someone who is smart, sweet, shy, and is an overall kind soul who is a good friend to everybody. And let me tell you, like, that really shines through in this case. Like many in high school, Chris started to develop a plan for his future. Science and engineering was the direction he was going in, and going to the University of Florida, the #1 school in that state, was his priority. We're on the opposite side of the country from Florida, obviously, so for those like us, I want to do a shallow dive into the U of F culture.
Okay.
U of F is notoriously hard to get into, and it's considered a badge of honor to attend.
Sweet.
It has a work hard, play hard culture with a reputation of being a party school. I mean, which school doesn't, unless it's fully remote.
Which is most of them nowadays.
Yep. Arguably more than anything, football dominates the culture. And you're going to get a kick out of this. I know you just like trash talked football, but you're going to get a kick out of this. Mm-hmm. Hey, your family are Patriots fans.
Yes.
Eric likes the Patriots.
Yep.
I am, by definition, a Patriots fan because of that.
Yep.
So there we go.
Yep. Patriots fan by proxy.
Yep. It's so much of the culture that churches were considering making Tim Tebow a saint at one point.
Oh my god, that was the biggest eye roll ever. I'm like, that doesn't surprise me at all. There's just something about, like, glorifying and giving a football player sainthood that I'm like, unless they have truly, like, done some really good things for the community and the world and, like, Mother Teresa status, there's no fucking way any athlete should get sainthood for being a good athlete. Fuck that shit. That's dumb.
Well, that's what I thought was hysterical, was that when people talked about this between 2020 and Murder in the Dorms, it was like, it was all jokingly. Like, it was just like, yeah, like, we're going to take this shit seriously. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Football and the school itself is what made U of F, well, basically going to the school, a dream for Chris.
Right.
Unsurprisingly, he got in.
Okay.
Again, smart as shit.
Okay.
Being a Gator was important to him because he was going to be the first cousin in his family to graduate from a university.
Good for him.
And he couldn't wait to move to North Florida for this. Mm-hmm. So again, Miami's down in the south.
Yep.
Gainesville up in the north. We're good. He was such a big fan of the game that he had purchased season tickets.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Those are probably not cheap.
No. Nope. For Erica, she enrolled in Santa Fe College, which is also in Gainesville.
Okay.
Many students go there to get their associates and then will transfer to U of F. I can't confirm that this was Erica's plan, but the main point is she was in town. Okay. Pedro planned on staying in Miami as he'd nailed down a full-ride scholarship to the University of Miami, which is amazing.
So these guys are all in the same friend group, but Erica and Pedro are a couple.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Continue. Chris is our main character.
Yes.
Okay.
Like many high schoolers, Erica and Pedro broke up after almost 3 years together at the end of the summer before Erica went away to school. I should have done that with my high school boyfriend, not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's fine.
I had seen red flags just like Erica did. She was the one to break it off because she had been seeing, quote, red flags with Pedro's actions and she was sick of making excuses for him. I didn't see specifics of what his behavior was like, but I can only imagine.
Red flags are red flags.
Yep, exactly. The timeline for moving north to Gainesville for them runs like this. Chris moved up north early, as in June early. And I know that some states in the U.S., like their students will graduate high school early. I honestly didn't look into when they graduated from high school, but either way, he moved up to Gainesville in June.
I think most states in the South, they graduate either mid or end of May for high school. Gotcha. Like I know up here it's June. End of June. I think for the states down south, because June is the hottest month. Yeah. So there's just like get them out of the schools. Yeah. Get them out of the schools. Okay. Do something else. I'm pretty sure at least.
Gotcha. He moved up to Gainesville in June. I believe it had something to do with his program in biomedical engineering. Okay. This was a big deal because many Latin American children stay living at home until they're ready to get married. So this was hard on his family, but the overall goal to do well in school and to make a difference in the world pushed this to happen. So, yeah, the family was like, oh, you're moving. But they're also like, no, go, flourish. Right. You're amazing. Right. Chris was a rare, responsible college student. As in, he communicated with his parents every single day.
Oh, bless his soul.
Even I didn't do that.
I did not do that. As much as my mother would have loved if I did that, I did not do that. I was very, very, very bad about once a week. Yep. And my mom was constantly like, why don't you call me? Phone works both ways, Mom. I will always answer your phone calls. Yep. Yeah, but I want you to call me. Fine, Mom. Moving on.
Yep. So the importance of this will come into play later on. Okay. Since Erica was going to Santa Fe College, Chris and his family took comfort in knowing that a friend from home would be nearby and could help with homesickness. They started hanging out more and more, and in typical 18-year-old fashion, started a romantic relationship by the time September came around.
Not shocking.
Yep. Yeah.
So Erica also moved up quite early.
She moved up, I believe, in August. Like, I think the normal time for when students would go up. So because her and Pedro had been together all summer, and then right before she left college, she broke up with him.
Forgot about that.
You're good. According to Chris's brother Alex, being hours from home with someone from home most likely served as an accelerant for their relationship.
Sure.
Which, again, you're 18 years old. It's the first time you're away from home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's gonna happen.
You have a comfort person.
Exactly. Pedro, on the other hand, was still down south in Miami, and as time went on, he felt increasingly isolated. I don't think it took him all that long, though. Because one day he announced he was going to the University of Santa Fe as well. And needless to say, his parents were shocked. Like, the way it was worded in these shows was, it was almost like an overnight decision of, like, I'm doing this. I'm dropping everything and I'm going.
So did he enroll and was accepted that fast?
Yeah, I don't know, like, the exact details, but 2 days before the fall semester began, he enrolled.
Huh.
I don't know.
It almost sounds like he was trying to be sneaky about it.
Yes, he was being sneaky about it, but also reminds me of some of our local community colleges here, where it's like, if you just simply enroll into a program, like, just pay the fee and you're fine.
Is it that small of a community college kind of thing where Santa Fe was?
I didn't look into that too much because the University of Santa Fe isn't really involved in the story, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Okay.
Again,
it sounds like it's a university, not a community college, so that's why I'm thinking he was probably sneaky about it, because universities don't usually just accept people that quickly. It's you have to do the process ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then they have a wait list.
Yeah, it must be really small for them to be able to do that.
If it was done that way, yeah.
Because both of those sources did say he moved up there and enrolled in the college.
Okay.
So I'm like, whatever, you guys did the research.
Okay. Fair enough.
This is when Chris's life, and this is how it was worded in Murder in the Dorms, his dad goes, and this is the point where someone came into Chris's life and it went boom.
Oh.
On September 7th, now keep in mind, again, 2012, September 7th, Pedro and Erica met up in a public place to discuss Erica's relationship with Chris. So in the college town I went to, we had a massive wall in the town where when different events were coming up, we'd paint the wall.
Mm-hmm.
The area where 2020 showed that they met up was very similar to this, I think.
Okay.
But it was kind of hard to be able to describe it, so I'm saying it right now.
Okay. Fair enough.
Pedro had learned about Chris and Erica's relationship from a mutual friend who had done the same thing that many of them had. So they'd gone to the same high school and had also moved up north. We have to remember that Erica was only 18 at the time and was dealing with a love triangle. So her way of handling it might have not been the best way. But then again, I personally broke up with someone over AOL Instant Messenger. So it's like, you don't want conflict.
We always make bad choices, especially when we don't want conflict.
Exactly.
Goodness knows I still live in the no conflict era of my life.
Yeah. Me too. During this meeting, she lied to Pedro because she didn't feel it was appropriate to share such personal information with him. She told him that she and Chris were only friends, and Pedro claimed to believe it, and he wanted to talk to Chris to clear the air. According to 2020, he had mutual friends arrange the get-together between himself and Chris. So that was, again, September 7th. September 20th is when Chris and Pedro finally hung out. And Chris had kept pushing this off before eventually agreeing to this meetup. According to the initial police interview with Pedro, their day started when Chris went to get they said flu shots. I've only known of one shot, but they said flu shots on campus. And then they went to, it was like a chicken joint that I've never heard of. Then again, it's probably rampant down there. So they got food off campus, followed by a trip to Best Buy since Chris wanted to get a CD. Mm-hmm. Following Best Buy, they drove around the area, and the two got into a fight over Erica. Mm-hmm. As a result, Chris asked to get out of the car, and Pedro drove off. Once Pedro got home, he spent some time on his laptop, took some sleeping meds, and went to sleep. Chris was never seen again.
Ooh. So obviously Pedro is primo suspect numero uno. Okay.
That same night, when everything was going down, Erica became worried that she hadn't been able to get in touch with Chris. Mm-hmm. Her calls and texts went unanswered, which was abnormal. After a while, she went to Chris's dorm room and knocked on his window since he was living on the first floor. She spoke to his roommate and learned that Chris was not there. As a result, she responsibly asked that Chris get back to her when she returns. That was the message to his roommate. Mm-hmm. After leaving, Erica contacted Pedro because she knew the guys had been hanging out earlier in the day.
Right.
Pedro kept insisting Chris was probably fine. Don't worry about him. Like, it's fine. Mm-hmm. The next day, September 21st, Erica checked in at Chris's dorm room again, and he was still not there. She immediately called Chris's mom to notify him that Chris couldn't be found, and Claudia verified that she'd last heard from him when she'd received a text the day before, and there was absolutely no indication that something was wrong.
Okay.
Erica then contacted Pedro, and the two of them went to the university police department to report him missing. And Murder in the Dorms, again, had, said, this campus is so big, they have their own police department, which, I mean, many universities do, but...
They at least have, security, some sort of security, but if it's that big that they have their own police department, this must have been a very big campus. Yeah. And honestly, that doesn't surprise me for, the University of Florida and places like that. Those big colleges, especially big colleges that have larger sports teams that are, Division I type deals. Those are big, big schools, so that doesn't surprise me at all.
Right. So, at the same time all that's going down, Chris's family also called into the department, and they are prepping to make the 5-hour trip north. Alex remembers this day clearly because his dad took him out of school early, which was highly abnormal.
Right.
Carlos was in tears, and Alex had never seen him in that state before. He was like, this is bad. Mm-hmm. All they knew was that something had happened to Chris. They then went to Claudia's work to pick her up, and then headed straight to Gainesville. What was normally a 5-hour drive was a 3-hour drive.
They were booking it.
Yep.
They were cooking.
Yep.
Woof.
The minute they arrived in town, they were immediately searching local trails and swamps, calling out Chris's name. Mm-hmm. And they were like, a lot of these swamps have alligators. We were wondering, did our son get eaten by an alligator? We don't know. Mm-hmm. So the campus police department immediately started working its network to attempt to find Chris after Erica and Pedro arrived at the station. They checked the computer logs to see if Chris had signed in anywhere. Nothing. They then looked at his class schedule and determined he was not at his dorm or in class. They then sent out a security alert to all the students. This is when the crime reporter for the campus paper, The Alligator, got this alert and immediately put up a brief on the website so a tweet could be sent out.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, awesome. This campus...
That's fast. That's good.
This campus was so on par with making sure, just like with the Latin American community, U of F is the same way. If one of their students is in trouble, everyone hands on deck.
And this is 2012.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's pretty impressive because technology is not what it is today. So the fact that they were able to get it out that fast with the limited technology there was, that's pretty good.
Yeah. While all this was going on, investigators continued to try to get a ping on Chris's phone. Meanwhile, in the interview room, Erica did put on record the drama in her relationship and how they were keeping information from Pedro. So she was very transparent. Everything she knew, she was coming forward. Mm. And I just wanted to point out the fact that how many girlfriends would be so persistent but know to quickly go to the police department when something just wasn't right?
I don't know.
I think, in my mind, it would be we'd be freaking out, letting time go on more and more and more. And she was the next morning after the guys hung out, police department.
Oh, I think for me, if I figured out that someone was missing, I'd be like, has his mom heard from him? Has his dad heard from him? What about his sister? What about his brother? What about this friend, that friend, the other friend? And it'd be I'd give it 12 hours and be still haven't heard from him, contacting all these people again, going to the police department. But that's who I am.
Yeah.
I'd be not playing this game.
Yeah.
I'm not playing this game.
Yeah.
I'm not letting more time go by right now.
Yeah. And that was, and I didn't put it in my notes, but Erica, to my knowledge, has only done one interview.
Oh.
So all of the footage that you'll ever see from her is that one interview.
Wow.
And I'm I don't know, I give her credit in that she's going on air saying what she knows and then saying, I'm taking a step back. This isn't about me.
Right. Right. That's big.
Yeah. So, however, during Pedro's interview, he told investigators further information. He said that him and Chris had made an impulsive decision, and this was they'd picked up a hitchhiker after they went to Best Buy. Yep. Your face right now is, excuse me, what the fuck?
No. That...
Yep. Who appeared to be a gentle giant in his 50s to 60s, wearing a cowboy hat. They figured...
You sound like you full of shit, Pedro. Okie dokie.
They figured that if anything happened, it was 2 against 1, and they could overtake the hitchhiker if needed. They drove around for 10 minutes, listening to this guy's story about why he was in town, before dropping him off at a storage unit. During this time in the back seat, the hitchhiker had been playing with duct tape that belonged to Pedro. The tape was gone after he'd been dropped off.
Who has duct tape in their car? And how do you not hear someone ripping duct tape? Like, you don't rip duct tape quietly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, this I call bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit.
Yeah. So they dropped the guy off, and this was the point when the two friends started arguing, and Chris was let out of the vehicle near a business that sold off-road vehicles adjacent to a wooded area.
Mm-hmm.
When asked where Pedro thought Chris was, Pedro said he was most likely walking around aimlessly because he didn't know the area as well as he does. I'm like, excuse you, dude, you just got to fucking Gainesville. What the fuck, you arrogant asshole?
He does not know this area as well as I do. Oh, you sound like you full of shit and you want to sound smarter than you actually are.
Yep.
No. He's been here longer!
Yep. Law enforcement's primary problem at this time was they didn't know an exact area to search.
Right.
This is when they got a digital forensics detective involved. Fucking badass.
Mm-hmm.
He searched Pedro's phone, and this was initially with only Pedro's consent, but then they did get an actual police order for it.
Okay, so Pedro's phone. They
Yes.
pinged Chris's phone and they never found Chris's phone.
Well, they're still trying to ping his phone.
Okay.
But they were like, things aren't adding up. We want to search Pedro's phone to see what we can find.
Right, and that makes sense.
Yeah. His goal was to match the phone data with his story. After a while, they were able to figure out that cell phone towers got pings from Pedro's phone. Both boys' phones were pinging off the same towers until Chris's phone was turned off.
Ooh.
Where was this location? A Walmart parking lot.
Oh.
They then traced Pedro's phone back to his apartment, and then it traveled south before losing connection.
Why were you in Walmart, Pedro? Why were you in Walmart?
Yeah. Having this timeline in mind, investigators started looking at surveillance footage, and they were able to verify all the stops, including Walmart.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's the big thing is, like, you have to have that surveillance to show, like, this is our evidence.
Yeah.
Given that both of the men were spotted within, both men, so Chris and Pedro, were spotted within the city limits, the university police turned the investigation over to the Gainesville Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
This was when their detective started talking to Pedro. He was described as coming across as meek and mild, but after 30 minutes of questioning, he started opening up about his relationship with Erica.
Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm. He continually claimed to be happy for his two friends, but the detective, he just wasn't buying it.
No, I wouldn't either.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the search, Carlos and Claudia were determined to find their son. They would not go home until they did so. So they didn't care if they lost their jobs or their home. Like, they were going to find their son.
Yep.
The search party was tiny at first, but that drastically grew once they went on the news, pleading for help. Once word started going around U of F in Gainesville, the level of support from the community and the university was high. In fact, the search for Chris was one of the largest searches in Florida's history.
Wow.
Horses, dogs, and helicopters were used. And then Eric would be like, just say, horses, dogs, and helicopters included.
Oh my.
Yep.
Yes.
Again, we listen to people.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement from all over the state was involved, and even people from Colombia came up to help.
Wow.
The search for Chris continued, but investigators started to dig deeper into Pedro's story. The location where he was living had security cams, and it looked like a gated community to me.
Okay.
So they learned they could see his comings and goings. In an interview with Pedro's roommate, they learned he had only been home for about 5 minutes that night, and nothing seemed abnormal. He was acting like he normally would.
Okay.
Eventually, investigators were granted permission to search Pedro's Chevy Blazer, and it was a fucking mess.
Ucky.
There were wrappers, bottles, and old paint cans in the back of the car, and a bunch of crumpled up receipts. One in particular was of interest. It was from McDonald's, dated the night that Chris went missing, with a timestamp at 12:54 a.m.
You a lying piece of shit, Pedro. There's no way you went home and took a sleeping pill and fell asleep.
Yep.
Unless you're sleepwalking and then I have serious issues where you need to go to the doctor.
Yep. You're remembering the initial claim. Yep. So, in more detail, his initial claim was he was at home in his apartment from 7 p.m. the night Chris went missing until the next day when he went with Erica to the police department.
And the roommate said he was only home for 5 minutes that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's full of shit.
Yep, absolutely. Upon being confronted about the conflicting information, he apologized and said he forgot, and it was probably because of the sleeping pills he took.
I'm sorry, I forgot. You forgot you were only home for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
You didn't take any sleeping pills, bud.
Yep. His story at that point started crumbling. Yep.
Duh.
Yep. He admitted that Chris didn't ask to get out of the car. Rather, Pedro forced him out by hitting him in the nose and pushing him out.
Oh.
He followed Chris outside and continued to beat on him.
Oh.
Upon seeing that he was still alive, but wasn't going to get up anytime soon, that's all in quotes, Pedro left.
Okie dokie.
Piece of shit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The digital forensics detective started looking at Pedro's phone closer, and the digital investigator found a log that showed battery percentage and usage in one file.
Mm-hmm.
During these interviews, Pedro told the police department that his phone had died, and he went home to charge it.
Sure.
This log showed the phone didn't die. It was put on airplane mode.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. You full of shit.
Yep.
You lying sack of shit.
Between 8 a.m., activity was not showing up on the cell phone records, but surveillance footage did catch Pedro at a car wash.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no.
In comparing the battery log between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m., there was a significant decrease in battery life. Pedro used his flashlight app for 43 minutes.
Oh.
And, that's, I guess, the one thing that doesn't make full sense to me is, I feel like that would increase your battery life if you're using the flashlight phone. But at the same time, I included that in there because I'm not the professional.
It would increase the battery life if you're using
I would think it would because, you know how you have your flashlight on your phone and your battery heats up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's going to kill it faster.
Oh, wait.
You're
Significant
using it.
decrease.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. I was thinking increase. Oh,
I got
God.
you. I was going to say, okay, we're on the same
I'm
page
all
now.
over the place. Holy shit.
It's yes, no, that's going to destroy the battery.
Yeah.
That's good. No worries.
This just a little bit. Pedro, he used the flashlight app for about 43 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
When confronted with the facts that Pedro started... When confronted with the facts, Pedro started to crumble even more.
Mm-hmm.
The detective pushed farther, saying, Chris isn't coming back, is he? And all Pedro could do was nod.
You went and buried him somewhere, didn't you?
The detective asked Pedro to show where Chris's body was, and they drove around to see where the hitchhiker was picked up and dropped off, looking for Chris. After hours of driving around...
Quote-unquote hitchhiker.
Yep. After hours of driving around, they found nothing.
Okay, then.
Upon returning to the station, Pedro made some suicidal statements and he was Baker acted. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
It is a mandatory health hold in Florida. If you believe a person is in danger of harming themselves or those around them, they can be brought in for an involuntary examination for mental health for up to 72 hours.
Oh, we call that sectioning.
Gotcha.
That's how I know it as, but
Okay.
I understand what it is.
Yeah, so he was brought in for that. Meanwhile,
Yep.
Meanwhile, the alligator was keeping the story alive.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers, parents, and friends were involved in trying to find Chris. Erica was there the entire time, supporting his family the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
U of F tried to get proactive and recognized that students were balancing stress in school, so they offered and provided mental health counseling to anyone that needed it, which I thought that was great.
Yeah.
It got to the point that the police department had to explain to the family that the longer time goes by, the less likely a good outcome will happen.
Yeah.
They also contacted the state attorney to notify them of what Pedro had done and contacted the mental health facility to let them know there was a warrant for Pedro's arrest. They just didn't want him to run.
Right.
As soon as they had a criminal charge available, they charged him.
Good.
Upon hearing this, Chris's family was shocked. After all, the boys were friends. Pedro had been in their home. Like, they were close, right?
Were they that close, or were they just, like, in the same friend group? Because it sounds like they were just in the same friend group.
I think that...
But Chris and Erica were the kindred spirits, and Pedro was just the third wheel.
Well, it got to that point, there wasn't too much information that I could find, like, before they, like, graduated high school. Mm-hmm. But Alex was like, no, he's been in my house.
Okay.
So, I think they were pretty close.
At least relatively. If you're, like, you don't just invite anyone over to your house to be like, hey, come and hang out at my house.
Yeah. Throughout all of this, a search warrant had been obtained for Pedro's apartment. The search produced a journal that he often wrote in, talking about how he wanted to die, and he was worried Erica was going to end up with Chris, and he'd lose his friendship with the two of them. Then it escalated to him trying to get Erica back, and he would eliminate any obstacles in his way.
Oh, so you are actually a little bit psycho.
Oh, not just a little bit.
Oh, I can't wait.
Investigators were able to get a search of, obviously, his personal property, and that included a suitcase found in his bedroom closet.
Oh, no.
And it was packed away like Russian doll style in a bag inside of a bag inside of a bag.
Oh, no.
Chris's backpack, wallet, and ID were found.
No.
There was a total of 3 search warrants issued, and they had also found a receipt from Lowe's where he purchased a shovel, some insecticide, and a bottle of Gatorade. Security footage supported this activity.
The Gatorade.
Oh, you just wait.
Ugh.
This search was obviously no longer looking like a missing persons investigation. It was a murder.
It was a recovery.
Yep. September 28th, 8 days after Chris was reported missing, the search warrant for Pedro's vehicle was executed after it had been towed to secure storage.
Okay.
During a forensic search, duct tape and carpet samples were found to have Chris's DNA. Mm-hmm. Floor mats also had his DNA and a mix of blood and fluid from his lungs.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. The Gatorade bottle that was found had a mixture of that with a sleeping agent in it.
Oh.
Therefore, Pedro most likely tried to get Chris drowsy before the crime was committed. Evidence was sufficient to show at that point that Chris was indeed dead.
This was planned. You go to jail for life for that shit.
You're gonna get so mad at the end of this.
Damn it.
After Pedro was arrested, Erica went to the jail, convinced fully that Pedro committed the crime, and she asked him repeatedly, where is Chris's body? The whole time, Pedro denied any involvement.
Interesting.
October 12th, 2012. 22 days missing. 2 hunters were in the woods, and they smelled decomposition. Initially, they thought it was a deer, but when they found the source, they saw it was a human body. It was Chris's body. Investigators found duct tape on Chris's ankle, which was a match to the duct tape found in Pedro's car. He was found an hour west of Gainesville in a remote wooded area.
Interesting.
And the part that got me was the detective who had done like all the questioning for the town cops. When he delivered the news of Chris's death, he grieved with the family for the first time in his career of 30 years.
Oh,
yeah,
that makes me sad.
Yeah, it made me sad too, which is why I included it. Because I'm a twisted mind.
You and me both.
Yep. U of F was obviously shaken and had a candlelight vigil. Many people who spoke didn't actually know Chris, but they said they wished they had gotten to know him. He hadn't been there long enough to build bonds with the other students.
Right.
But his loss was felt. Like, Isn't that insane how he wasn't there for very long, but a community is so tight that it's like he was there the entire, like, just for 4 years, not months.
Just like 2 months.
Yeah.
No, it was like 4 months because it was
Yeah.
June, July, August, September.
Yeah.
4 months, yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It tells you how close this community is.
Yeah.
At this point, the impact of the search was taking its toll.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear anything about Claudia, but I'm sure she was a fucking mess.
My God, I can only imagine.
Yeah. But Carlos collapsed and was put on meds, and Alex had obviously lost a ton of weight from hardly eating and sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
August 2016, 2 years after the crime. No, 4 years after the crime. Typo.
August 2016, go.
Yep. Pedro's trial finally began. Every day, Chris's family was there sitting in the front row.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro was pleading not guilty.
Of course.
Yep.
Insanity or mental defect?
I didn't see that part.
Oh, okay.
They just said that, well, the prosecution's argument was that Pedro was jealous of Chris and he had put together a plan to kill him.
Okay.
The story of Chris's murder is as follows based on the medical examiner's examination.
Oh, jeez.
When Pedro's car was parked in the lot for Walmart, they were there for 2.5 hours, and the surveillance footage supported this.
Woof.
Yeah. Pedro gave Chris the laced drink and waited for him to lose conscious. Once Chris was unconscious, Pedro got into the back seat and strangled Chris with a moving strap.
That's awful. As Chris is unconscious from the sleeping pills, he is getting strangled. That's awful. Okay.
Police say that Pedro then drove out to the woods, dug a shallow grave, and then left Chris there.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro's lawyer argued, Pedro didn't want to hurt Chris, but he really didn't mean to kill him. He didn't mean to do any of that. He just wanted to kind of get a message through.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. That is premeditated to a T. You put sleeping pills into a Gatorade and gave them to him and then strangled him.
Yep.
What the fuck kind of message is that supposed to send?
Yep. The state's evidence against Pedro consisted of the following. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot, but this is like the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
The McDonald's receipt.
Yep.
The car wash footage. And the Lowe's security footage.
Mm-hmm.
Forensic evidence from the burial site consisted of the duct tape that was around Chris's ankles, his hands, and his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That duct tape was forensically matched to the tape in the car. So they're all, like, actually placing it in Pedro's car.
Mm-hmm.
Erica did end up taking the stand and provided context regarding background, timeframes, and communications.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro had taken the time to write down his plans, and she said it was the mind of a sociopath.
Mm.
Her breaking point was when she was asked to identify the items from Chris's backpack. And she broke because Pedro was staring at her the entire time. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
get your fucking eyes off me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the investigators involved, they're like, I made eye contact with Pedro at one point. There was no emotion. Like, no regret, no remorse during the trial.
That's awesome. There's too many people like that in this world where there's just dead eyes. I'll do whatever I want. Why?
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, like, remember when he was put into the suicide prevention vest?
Yep.
There are pictures of Pedro, which we're not going to post on the drive because he doesn't deserve that platform.
Nope, fair enough.
But you look into his eyes and he's almost like, hi, a picture is being taken of me.
Someone's giving me attention.
Yeah.
I'm going to smile for this picture.
I'm like, you fuckface.
You're a psycho!
Yep. So, of course, jailhouse snitches make things interesting, right?
Oh, usually.
This case is no different!
Mm-hmm.
Michael Angelo, Pedro's cellmate, was crucial for the prosecution. The state had no idea about him until Michael's attorney approached them, saying he had information.
Okay.
His agreement for testifying was he would provide truthful information, and then prosecutors would appear at his sentencing hearing and provide the court information about how he helped provide information for this case.
Sure.
His life sentence would be, therefore, reduced to 25 years.
Why is he in jail?
I thought the exact same thing. So, according to WUFT, as of 2014, like, this is when the article was published that I saw. I haven't seen anything recently. He's a 9-time convicted felon with counts of possession of a weapon and gang activity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said that Pedro poisoned Chris with sleeping pills and pesticide and then choked him with a moving strap. He provided down-to-the-minute details about how and how long the choking happened. Pedro had braced himself against the back seat, and per the clock radio, it took Chris 13 minutes to die.
Can you imagine holding a moving strap to someone's throat for 13 minutes? You have to consciously keep telling yourself, hold it, hold it, hold it. That's a special kind of psycho.
Pedro's a twisted motherfucker.
That is a special kind of psycho.
Yep.
Wow. Now all of Erica's red flags make so much sense.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
The most valuable bit of information he provided was Pedro's recount of his plan to redirect suspicions of Chris's death. Brace yourself. The plan was that Michael had the ability to procure murders of U of F students from the outside, since obviously they're both inside. These murders would look similar to Chris's murder, hinting at the idea there was a serial killer on the loose.
Wait, what? So Michelangelo was actually going to help get Pedro off the hook by telling his gang members to commit murders of... And then he flipped.
And if I remember correctly...
that's how he's supposed to procure this information.
Well, so he provided that information as far as, this is what our plan was to make things even worse.
So Michelangelo
Yep.
and Pedro
Yep.
shared a cell.
Yes.
Michelangelo was originally going to help him get away with it. Was he actually going to help him get away with it? Or was he saying he was going to help him get away with it to get this information to lessen his sentence?
I think that's what it was anything he could do to lessen his sentence was what he was after.
Okay, because that makes more sense, where it's like, you don't do things to benefit anyone else unless it benefits yourself,
Exactly.
Especially if you are in that type of situation where you're already in jail for life.
Yep.
You do things to benefit yourself.
Yep.
Interesting.
And if I remember correctly, like, I should have looked this up beforehand, Ted Bundy was in Gainesville.
I think you're right.
So they've had a serial killer there before.
He's a nasty motherfucker, too. He's yucky.
Yep. The shovel was supposed to be retrieved to copycat the murder to show someone else did it. The key was Michael would have to know exactly where the shovel was located.
Ooh.
Pedro had left it under a boardwalk. I couldn't figure out exactly where this was. Like, there was no real information I could find.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, this location verified Michael's story.
Okay.
Of course, Pedro's lawyer attacked Michael's credibility and showed the reality of Michael's deal with the state. So that was just... I really think that they're honestly grasping at straws wherever they could. Pedro did take the stand and testified why he got the Gatorade. The sleeping meds was ZQuil and a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed it was to kill himself.
You're doing great. You're doing great, my friend.
The reason why his flashlight was on for so long? He got out of the car in the middle of the night and turned his flashlight on with his phone, from his phone, because he couldn't see anything, and went to a tree and carved his name and the date, so it would be his date of death.
Sure.
He admitted to, and basically that's how he would die.
Okay, where's that tree?
Yep. He admitted to hitting Chris repeatedly with his open palm in the face, and then during his testimony, his answers came across definitely as rehearsed. And the reason for buying the shovel?
Mm-hmm.
He was going to mark his tomb and dig it.
Oh.
So he's trying to have an answer for everything, but it's just not fucking working.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. You're trying.
Yep.
Trying really hard.
Oh yeah. And of course, it only took a matter of time for the jury to find Pedro guilty in the first degree, and he was sentenced to life without parole.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, this is about to be controversial, but I'm not anti-death penalty if it comes to a case where someone is showing a history of violent crime, like murder, and somehow gets released and continues doing it. Because it just shows that, well, the system should be doing better for rehabilitation, but also shows that there's a good chance they can't be.
Mm-hmm.
But in cases like this, I think life without parole is good because he's like, he has to deal with his consequences.
Oh my God. See, I have my own opinions about that. I am all for the death penalty type of thing, where I'm like, wait, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, free medical care, 3 meals a day. Taxpayers are basically paying for you to live there. I'm not saying it's the most comfortable situation. I'm not saying it's not dangerous.
Yeah.
But you are taken care of medically. You are taken care of food-wise. And you don't have to work.
Mm-hmm. I mean...
Like, no, you shouldn't be that comfortable. Like, and if you're that sociopathic that you really cannot be released back into society as a normal, quote-unquote, normal person... Why are you staying here, especially if you're 18 years old?
I mean, I do think that Pedro deserves mental health care. Like, he deserves to figure out why the fuck he did it. And to get put back into a place where he can be a functioning member of quote-unquote society. No, I don't ever want him to be released. But I think that if he can be somehow rehabilitated to an extent and then somehow behind bars be able to give back to the community in some way. Like,
that's just not for me. I'm like, I don't see if someone can prove me wrong. Someone can say, well, what if he did this from behind bars and he actually truly felt remorse for his actions and.
Oh, yeah. There was definitely no remorse. Even going forward, there's proof that there's no fucking remorse.
Like, I think that's my biggest problem with it. It's
yeah. And, I mean...
The taxpayers are paying for you to stay there.
Yeah.
It's not my tax money, obviously, because I don't live in Florida. Thank Jesus for that one. But I don't see the benefit of putting someone in prison for life. Like, that might be very cold-hearted of me. Like, I understand he has a family that probably also loves him very much. I don't know if his family has ever spoken out about it.
I'll talk about them a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, like, that's something to me that I cannot in good conscience say, yes, please leave him in prison for the rest of his life because he can't come back into society.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Like, can we have another place like Australia where there's just no holds barred? Just stay there. If you don't, like, here's the chair. You can choose the chair.
Yeah.
Or please go to Australia with all these terrible, horrible, awful other people and all the venomous snakes and the kangaroos that'll beat your face in.
Well, I guess there's, like, a part of me that hopes that, like... It just came across as Pedro was a very happy individual until high school ended. And then it was a flip switch.
He peaked in high school.
Yes, definitely peaked in high school. But I would like to think that if he takes therapy seriously behind bars, he can get back to, on medication and with therapy, who he might have been beforehand. I don't know. Anyway.
Either way, he's never getting out, so...
Exactly. Carlos does believe, and I guess Chris's family is the number one factor of how justice should be served. So Carlos believes this is fair, but he hasn't forgiven Pedro.
No.
I wouldn't ever forgive someone who killed someone that's close to me. They can go fucking rot in hell. I don't give a shit. Carlos had made a very powerful statement in that Pedro had destroyed 2 families, Chris's and his own. At the time that Murder in the Dorms came out, he hadn't heard from Pedro or his family saying, I'm sorry. And I was like, oh boy. However, on 2020, they did go on camera, and in my opinion, like, they have a clean slate in my mind.
The family does?
Yes.
Okay.
It was mainly Pedro's mom who spoke. Like, his dad did speak as well. They're definitely older. Like, they had him later in life. Pedro's mom couldn't stop sobbing as she was putting herself in the Aguilar shoes over the loss of their son, while also grieving the loss of her son.
Right.
So she was like, through tears, like, I am praying for that family. I am praying for Chris. Like, the remorse is there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like, I don't know what Pedro's upbringing was like, but to me it was very, very apparent that she was not okay.
That mother is struggling.
Yes. And I think that that's why they didn't talk when Murder in the Dorms came out, was they're probably still processing it on their own.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. And I tried searching for Pedro's upbringing to kind of see what the dynamics were. Nothing. Okay. So it's not from the lack of trying.
No.
To make things more nuts, in the 2020 episode, a new witness came forward with a bombshell claim that could, quote, turn the case upside down. I don't think it will, but I'm going to cover this anyway.
Okay.
As a result, the show went and talked with Pedro behind bars. He said it was easy to lose hope, but now with this new witness, that's been reignited.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Per a signed and notarized affidavit, this new witness claimed to have seen the fight between Pedro and Chris had walked away unharmed. She'd been trying to get tickets to the U of F game and was supposed to meet someone in the parking lot where they were to get tickets when she'd seen all this go down. Mm-hmm. She went to approach Chris and he told her to, quote-unquote, move on. I've never talked with Chris. I've never heard anything about him, really. But I have a very strong gut feeling that he would never fucking say this shit.
No.
He would probably been like, I'm okay, like, just, it's okay. Like, I could see that happening, but not move on. So why has this not been talked about sooner? Mm-hmm. This claim from this witness, well, the claim was from a witness who was 19 at the time.
Okay.
And she had traveled to Gainesville to see the game and had no idea this interaction would be significant for the trial.
Okay.
My personal opinion, I think Pedro somehow got in contact with this woman, maybe like a pen pal, and is doing whatever he can to get out. So I think he's trying to manipulate
those.
her.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. Those crazy women that write to men in jail and are just like, "This is my soulmate.
Yeah,
he did nothing wrong," and they fall in love with them as they're in prison. I'm like, wait, they are in prison for a reason. Our justice system is not perfect, but there was obviously enough evidence that they were convicted.
Yep.
Not saying the justice system is not wrong either, but...
Yep.
Can we find those letters somewhere, if it is even possible that there are letters there? Because wouldn't that be on the security tape? Like the Walmart security camera, you would see that there's someone else there that walks up to them at some point and then walks away. Yeah. Or you'd see Chris get out of the car and say, move on. Or you would see him walk away.
Yeah.
I'm like, it sounds fishy.
Yep, absolutely. The state attorney said the only way this new claim would concern him is if it provided evidence that Pedro did not commit the crime. Mm-hmm. However, he has not talked to this individual as of the airing of the show, and the case is closed. So his authority to subpoena any witness doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And then 2020 wanted to talk to her as well, but she declined the request. I'm like, yeah, because you're going to get fucking destroyed in the media.
I was about to say, they already have the duct tape with his fluids and in the car and all the stuff from his lungs.
Yeah.
That lines up. Yeah, being choked, you're going to spit up blood.
Hence why I think it was like a pen pal situation where she is trying to...
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Michelangelo is also recanting his testimony.
Oh!
He claimed to have been contacted by a woman, and it didn't specify if it's the same woman, and she encouraged him to come clean with anything he felt was weighing him down, and he, quote-unquote, lied on the stand.
I'm sorry, but you're everything you've already said is like...
It's
been found out.
Yep.
Like, there's no disproving that. You can't recant that. It's already been disproven. And do you want your life sentence back? Sure, we'll give you that back.
Yeah, I know, right?
Bye.
At the time that the trial was taking place, Michael claimed to have forced Pedro to write down lies so it would help with Michael's case in getting him a lighter sentence. Michelangelo had been under pressure to help the defense, after all, said with dripping sarcasm. Again, since the state attorney is not worried, he's not worried because the information provided to them by Michael led to accurate evidence.
Yeah.
And even without his testimony, they most likely would not have found the shovel that Pedro hit, but Pedro would have been convicted regardless.
Yeah, without the shovel, again, duct tape, blood and fluids, sleeping pills in the Gatorade bottle that Pedro bought.
Yep.
That sounds like a pretty done and closed case to me. Fucking morons.
Yeah.
Idiots.
Yeah. And then in the interview with 2020, Pedro said he'd been watching shows and reading books, and he'd been looking up online, like, content about all of that. And he claims that the state used his searches against him, and it really had nothing to do with Chris, don't you know?
Obviously it had nothing to do with Chris.
Yeah. Pedro has filed a new motion for post-conviction relief in hopes of getting a new trial. Whether or not the state has to respond is up to the court. They'd have to determine that the motion on its face is valid and meets the standards for this relief, and that hasn't been determined yet. The same judge who presided over his trial will also be involved in hearing this motion. And then the state attorney had mentioned this kind of motion is granted less than 1% of 1/10 of the time. So he's pretty much fucked, and that's okay.
I'm okay with that. I am very okay with that. Jeez and crow.
Yeah. Pedro was asked by 2020 if he had anything to say to Chris's parents and Erica. And this is the part where I'm like, you can rot in hell. I don't give a fuck. He said that he has no understanding of what it's like to lose a son, and he has no words to offer. He doesn't have the ability to take their pain away, and maybe that pain should stay there, because at least that person would still be in your life.
Excuse me? Excuse me? What?
Yep. He's He's resentful that his actions as a teenager were taken out of context, resulting in him being behind bars.
Yes, your actions were taken out of context, that you have the same, again, fluids, Gatorade, duct tape. You're an idiot.
Yep.
Idiot.
Yep.
Sociopath!
And this is why I was like, in the beginning, I'm going to be repeating a lot of the same information, but it's like, as you can probably tell now why this has taken me so fucking long.
Yes.
Is it's like added. I'm like, what the fuck?
You're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot.
This story is about Chris, though, so I'm going to end it that way.
Fabulous.
His parents have a sketchbook, and within it, they think that there's a drawing of Erica. They're not sure if she's seen it, but needless to say, his belongings are now prized possessions. Mm-hmm. His iPod and the CD that Chris got on his last night alive are among them. Mm-hmm. The family wants everyone to remember Chris for how kind and sweet and gentle he was, and to remember his smile. And we're going to upload some pictures with that smile, and he's just like, I can understand why he was popular. Mm-hmm. I can fully understand.
Was he a good-looking dude?
He was very good-looking.
Oh, I'm so excited to see.
Yeah. Even though Chris was only a student for a couple months, U of F granted an in memoriam degree to his family. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to remember, like, if this was from 2020 or not, but I did read somewhere, at least, that he was the first Latin American to get it in Florida, and he's officially a Gator.
Oh, I have goosebumps now.
Yeah. Today, his parents wonder if he'd had grandkids, or if him and Erica would still have ended up together in the long run. And unsurprisingly, Alex followed in his brother's footsteps and went to the U of F as well.
Good.
Chris's family is giving back and has started to help other families in similar situations. A foundation was created in Chris's memory called the Christian Aguilar Search and Rescue Foundation. It consists of search and rescue dogs, specifically 2 dogs that are trained for this kind of work. In my mind, considering that they've started this giving back with the search and rescue, I think his family is made up of only the brightest gems found on the planet. Giving back, still being tight-knit, mm-hmm. and coming out, mm-hmm. wanting to make his story known. Mm-hmm. And that is the story of Christian Aguilar.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked Chris.
I think so too. And like, he specifically wanted to create, to technology, like, you know when someone's, like, lost part of their arm, like, let's say, like, their elbow?
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to create the robots or whatever where they could place it over that and they'd have a functioning hand.
He was a smarty pants. We need more smart people like that in this world.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it all.
And, like, it is definitely, it was, like, the Gainesville love triangle or something like that. I didn't want to give it too much, like, of a highlight. But I just... It's so hard because Pedro clearly has demons he needs to work through and cannot take accountability. Mm-hmm. But his family is struggling, and I think that no matter what, I don't think his family themselves deserve to be ridiculed.
They shouldn't be ostracized.
No.
I mean,
I don't know if they have been, but I'm just saying after doing all that research and seeing his mom genuinely sobbing, I'm like, oh, this poor woman.
she, like, obviously she's had... I could not imagine being that mother.
Yeah.
I could not imagine being Chris's mother. I could not imagine being Pedro's mother. Like,
oh, yeah.
I think if I was Pedro's mother, I would be moving, changing my name. I mean...
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can say that, though. If it was like, if that's my child, and I don't think that they could have ever done something like that, I'd be like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd hold out hope or if I'd just be like, you were convicted. I see the sociopath in you. I am done.
Yeah.
I cannot do this because this is an awful thing to do. But then I'd be like, am I an awful mother? What did I do to get to my child so that this happened? I'd be like...
Yeah.
It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd do. Makes me want to throw up.
I think that's part of why, like, there's a certain... So much of the story is Pedro's interview. And I think I was okay with being superficial in that research because it was enough of what he was saying. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to give justice and really bring forth what Chris was like. So yeah, that's our crime. And then next month you want me to try to get a kidnapping case?
Your choice.
Okay.
Your choice. I'm not gonna push for one thing or another. I think even if you decided to do it for June, for our June book, that'd be fun.
We'll figure it out.
If we can figure that out. Did you see anywhere in your research if Pedro was an only child?
I think he was. I didn't see anything about him having a sibling, and I'm pretty sure...
So his parents looked older, so they had him later in life, and he was an only child.
I think so.
Okay. I don't want to say that's a stereotype, but it's like that's kind of a stereotype for being coddled by your parents because of whatever reason they had him later in life, whether it was medical issues or luck of the draw or an oopsie baby, whatever it was. Yeah. But then also being an only child is saying, oh, yeah, you really were coddled for many reasons.
Yeah, and there really isn't a lot of information out there regarding him. Like,
right. And again, not trying to blame the parents, but...
Yeah, and like the reason why I really highlighted 2020 and Murder in the Dorms is because every time I tried to Google Christian Aguilar... Guess which celebrity would pop up?
Christina Aguilera. Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, I'm not looking at information for her.
I like her, but that's not what I don't need that right now. Yeah. That's not for me.
Yeah.
No.
So what are we reading for May?
May is Bridgerton. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. This is Penelope and Colin's story by Julia Quinn. So this is the second book. This is the second book in the series. This is the third book.
This is actually the fourth.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But it's going to be the third season.
Right, it's the third season of Bridgerton. I can never get that right. Because of course it's supposed to start with Anthony, and then it goes to Benedict, and then it's supposed to be Colin, and then Daphne.
Well, Daphne was number one.
Daphne was actually the first book, though. Right. Yes. I do remember that now. Okay, so let's read back. Look for Bridgerton, a Netflix original series. From #1 New York Times, best-selling author Julia Quinn comes the story of Colin Bridgerton and the fourth of her beloved Regency-set novels featuring the charming, powerful Bridgerton family, now a series created by Shondaland for Netflix. So this is Penelope and Colin's story, obviously. Penelope Featherington has secretly adored her best friend's brother for, well, it feels like forever. After half a lifetime of watching Colin Bridgerton from afar, she thinks she knows everything about him until she stumbles across his deepest secret and fears she doesn't know him at all. Colin Bridgerton is tired of being thought of as nothing but an empty-headed charmer, tired of the notorious gossip columnist Lady Whistledown, who can't seem to publish an edition without mentioning him. But when Colin returns to London from a trip abroad, he discovers nothing in his life is quite the same, especially Penelope Featherington. The girl who is always simply there is suddenly the girl haunting his dreams. When he discovers that Penelope has secrets of her own, this elusive bachelor must decide, is she his biggest threat or his promise of a happy ending? So, we're looking at early 1800s England.
Yep.
Where we have seasons of women going out and being showcased for the men to pick from. So not my cup of tea, because, the frilly dresses and all of that. I'm like, I like my joggers and my hair.
We would have been on the struggle bus. But we're both fans of Bridgerton on Netflix. And with the new season coming out in May, we're like, well, duh, that's a no-brainer.
Gotta do it.
And then I happened to see on Julia Quinn's Instagram today. So today, as we're recording this, it is April 6th. Did you know that today is actually Pollen, Polin Day?
P-O-L, as in Penelope and Colin? Why?
It is the day that Penelope fell in love with Colin. April 6th.
Does it say that in here?
Yes,
I feel like it says that in there.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. On the 6th of April in the year 1812, precisely 2 days before her 16th birthday, Penelope Featherington fell in love. First fucking line of the book.
I didn't remember it until I saw it.
I didn't remember that either. And as soon as you said that, I'm like,
yep.
Flipping.
So happy early birthday, Penelope.
Happy early birthday, Penelope, and happy Pollen Day.
Yep. So
unplanned, but we'll take it. So
that is our book for next month. And as listeners may know, we actually got our shit together. So if you're not following us on Instagram, because that is our main platform, you can find us at Books, Booze, Murder. And then obviously we have our YouTube channel.
Yep.
Which is Books, Booze, Murder as well, right?
Yes.
And
then we're on Spotify as well.
Books, Booze, and Murder, yes. And then that was another thing. Yes, we
That's
are.
brand new.
Yes, we are officially on Spotify.
Woohoo!
Our first 2 episodes were uploaded to that as well, but you can find us there. I think that pretty much covers it, right?
Yeah.
Books, Booze, and Murder. Books, Booze, Murder. All of that.
And then, of course, we have the email booksboozemurder@gmail.com if we have suggestions of books to read at some point or...
Yeah. We're always open to book suggestions, for sure. I mean, we've been talking, and down the line, we definitely plan on creating a Patreon. And just kind of getting help with purchasing books, even if they are used, and, kind of building tiers where maybe in the future, our fans can be like, I want you to cover this book, or I want you to cover this crime, and that way we can do that benefits. But that's going to be really, farther down the line, but it's definitely been talked about. But yeah, let us know if there are any books that we should read, and we'll add that to the list, and I think that about covers it, right?
I was about to say, we have May that we just read, we have our June book that we've picked, and then we'll talk... July at some point.
Yeah, so let us know on Instagram or on YouTube or send us an email. And we'll see you guys next month.
Fabulous.
Bye-bye.
Bye.